let's talk of the future of work, because I mentioned this last week. There's a tier one vendor seriously trialing the 4-day week, one in particular, who will remain nameless, who's got tens of thousands of employees, going to roll this out imminently across their global workforce, 70,000 staff they've got, around a 4-day week. I also saw, I think it was yesterday or the day before in CRN, there was an article out saying the companies that had trialed the 4-day week are going to continue it. And these were small companies, small partners, Highgate Solutions, Cloud9, small partners that I thought would never, ever, ever go to a 4-day week. Julian, if I come to you first, what's your thoughts on this? Is this 4-day week, is the 4-day week going to kick off and stay?
So if our partners only worked a 4-day week and it was the same 4-day week, then maybe. If we want to take a 20% reduction in our pay, then maybe. But I don't, and I don't know any of our partners yet who are going to work a 4-day week. So it'd be very difficult for us to satisfy our partners' demands, even if you put aside the selfishness of, do you want to earn 20% less? And if you're not earning 20% less, how are you going to pay for it?
What if it's 100% pay for 80% work? That's what they're trialing at the moment. They're saying it's the same money, but you're actually just only going to work 4 days.
Well, I don't think it's Christmas every day, is it?
Haf, what do you think? 4-day week, is it here to stay?
One thing I will say is that I'm very grateful for. We spoke about it last week, and that's Wellness Fridays. I'm sure everyone will agree. So whilst we're not quite at a 4-day week yet, I think the fact that we get, a half day once a month is really quite a powerful thing. And, sometimes we're using that time to even take part in charity events with our partners. So good example of that is, well, I won't steal Howard's limelight, but yeah, maybe you want to talk about the big sleep out in a couple of weeks that we're doing.
Come on to that later, shall we? So but that's charitable work that HPE match funds, which is massive, especially when you're talking thousands of pounds. So I'll allude to that a little bit later. But if you're staying on the 4-day week, I personally think it's inevitable. I think it's just going to happen. We've already surfaced that with all our clients to say, we see this as a direction of travel. The challenge for us is actually we need to make more money to be able to pay for 20% more staff to cover the day, the 20% when people aren't working, really. So you can't sort of rely on efficiency and productivity in those 4 days. But I do think it's inevitable. An interesting point, though, I was at a session yesterday as part of the Leeds Digital Festival where listening to somebody in advertising, the tech advertising industry was saying that they'd done a survey of a lot of people around the 4-day week. And one of the things that had cropped up was, does it give me extra time? Where does the extra time that I get back, where do I spend it? And one of the themes that I'd never thought about is that where people were saying, well, actually, I don't want to spend the extra day with the family. Where
they're doing it then?
It's more about thinking time and me time, really, which it sort of dovetails, I guess, into that sort of wellness conversation a little bit, doesn't it, really? So what do you use the extra day off for? Especially in when we're in sort of an industry that is really fast paced, it is quite high pressure. And we will see, I think, a wellness pandemic come along to follow the COVID-19 pandemic over coming years. So I think that 4-day week will definitely help us as a sector and us as a country, I think, in terms of, how we, attract and retain talent, which is one of the big things that we've used that messaging for, but also help us in terms of how we sort of get a better work-life balance.
Yeah, because I was interested in that, because from a recruitment perspective, I was thinking, is there lots of companies using this 4-day week to attract talent? No one can get talent at the moment. Are they doing it just to attract talent and they're going to go back to 5 days a week? What do you think, Lewis?
There's a bit of that.
I tried what you said last week, actually. I did 4 days. Friday I was in Ibiza. I was with a partner, though. So, go back to what Haf said, right? We tried pre-pandemic. We introduced Wellness Fridays. It got a bit of a reaction from the crowd last week, but that's every second Friday. We tried in the pandemic. We gave everybody basically 6 days off, right? That's a big, bold thing to do. But pre-COVID, we were doing second Friday in the month, half day. Where did they spend their time? Where do we spend our time on that Friday afternoon? And we still accept calls. There's nothing that we wouldn't do if a call came in. We spend it with our colleagues because your family are working or they're at school. So we might have a game of golf with 5 of our colleagues in the afternoon, put our phones on, In fact, one of the guys from Convergent who was here said to me when I come off stage that he had to phone his HPE account manager who was in Orlando on a partner incentive, and he picked up the phone. Right, so I don't think we're ever off. And some of the other things you look at is that, I think we do a good lot of hours. A lot of people do hours where they shouldn't. There's this quiet quitting thing that's going around. These things build up momentum, Howard, and we've seen that. But I certainly put my hours in. I do welcome the Wellness Friday every month, but I'm with my colleagues most of the time. And actually, some of the partners have joined us on our Wellness Fridays and gone out with us. So,
what happens though if performance really, really drops around this? When we're sort of saying, well, there's Wellness Fridays and it's a 4-day week and it's this, that, and the other, and then suddenly performance plummets. Will we start seeing people say, actually, we're not doing Wellness Fridays no more, and it's got to be 5 days a week?
Yeah, but I think you've got to separate them. I think, you're always going to have performance issues with people, right? And that's life, right? So I think you have to separate it. I don't think it's going to be connected. There might be some stuff around which could be connected around wellness and people, but outside of, if it's a 4-day week or non-4-day week, I think you've just got to separate the two. And each company has their own processes, right? We certainly have a process. I'm sure Ingram and DTP do as well. But I would separate the two issues.
I maybe feel slightly differently. I think it's maybe not about individual performance issues, but if the market takes a squeeze and we get under the pump, we talk about this with we at Ingram, the main sales and commercial teams work from home Mondays and Fridays. So we top and tail the weekend, partly because it was a hardship getting all your stuff into the office, taking it back, then going back in. So we try to make it nice and simple for 4 straight days. They were there at home. I think it's, let's be honest, during all of COVID, we trust our teams, did a great job, and they continue to do a great job. But it's when the market tightens and contracts, how will people react when they can't see their teams out in front of them, or they are working a 4-day week? I know one of our competition had all their company in on the day the Queen was buried. And that's quite remarkable, really, if you consider that as a bank holiday and dragging them in. If they're able to do that now before a market contraction, what is going to happen on the go forward? So I would say how companies deal maturely with a contraction in the market as and when it comes. We're talking about recession next year. How will they manage it? So I wouldn't say it's about individual non-performance. That should be managed as part of our management structures. But when the market tightens and people go back to a little bit old school, how will they react and manage it then?
Let's talk diversity in the channel, because on our last channel chat, we talked about diversity. Mike Norris from Computer Centre suggested that in order to improve things, we needed a period of positive discrimination to redress the balance. So I'm seeing that as basically potentially the most qualified candidate might not be getting the role, the most suitable candidate might not be getting the role, to readdress the balance. What's the view of the panel on that? What do you think, Haf, about that?
I think one thing that really comes front of mind for me is just having the opportunity to, I guess, work with networks like the STEM network, for example, within HPE to kind of champion what we're doing and help young people in particular understand, and even females understand what technology really is about and what it means to work in technology. So yeah, I think instead of positive discrimination, that's the thing that I think is important. People that are working in technology to really kind of give a balanced view, a realistic view of what it's like to work there. And hopefully that will encourage more young people, more females, more of a diverse crowd to move into this field.
Howard, what do you think?
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're not a large organisation, so for us to positively discriminate would probably impact our operating model a little bit too much in terms of hiring talent. But in terms of our academy type approach, I think there is really an opportunity to, I wouldn't say discriminate as such, but to look for more diversity in terms of the candidates we're bringing in. And I don't necessarily, diversity could mean anything, couldn't it? It could mean from, age and previous working life. So I was with a dev company last night, actually, in one of their sort of presentations that they're doing as part of the Leeds Digital Festival. And they were talking about how their academy, there was an ex-chef there who was retraining to code and things like that. So I think it's that diversity word, I think we can sort of certainly stretch it out, and in terms of how we bring talent, future talent in, and train future talent. Because it's fair to say that we are short of talent. It's simple as that.
Yeah. What about you, Julian? Do you think we need a period of positive discrimination, or can we fix it in other ways?
It's interesting. I used to take great umbrance by the fact that there was a feeling that we don't consider that it should even be a consideration, and we should always employ the best person for the job. But then one of my team said something to me, which actually made me stop and think. They said, "But you may always look for similar traits in people when you come to employ. People are like you.
Yep.
You employ people that you think not you can get on with, but they think the same. Now, invariably, that could then channel it down a particular route from a non-diverse background. And whilst we may always think, well, we're going to recruit people that are going to challenge us, but it may still be the similar type of person. So that made me realize that actually we do need to do something positive to drive a change, to get more talent through the door. But ultimately, it does come up through getting more diverse talent through the door and thinking a different way. Because I'm conscious of the fact that I've said what I've said about a 4-day week and working from home, which I'm very positive about, but I am concerned when push comes to the shove. Now, someone who maybe hasn't been doing this quite as long as some of us have may think differently to that. And their ideas we absolutely need to hear and be open to. So how can we continue to make the current way of working work rather than, hang on, first sign of trouble, let's go and revert back to the past? We shouldn't go back to the past, in my opinion. We need to try and look about how we can make the future right. So that means having a more diverse workforce and leaders, and that's the most important thing, leaders, then that might also help change the thinking.
I think if you set targets for diversity as opposed to discriminating, it sort of sets a benchmark from your senior management, doesn't it? This is our ideal direction of travel. And then people will start to get behind that in terms of not necessarily discriminating, but actually thinking more of it in their day-to-days as in their sort of line of hiring duties, shall we say.
I'm not sure about targets. I'm certainly thinking trying to change the thinking, and by having more people around you who think differently, ultimately will rub off on you, and you'll start to think differently. Then collectively, you got 10 senior managers, if you like, thinking differently, recruiting differently, and driving the business in a different way. And I think that can only be positive.
The experience I've got, right? I've got 2 managers female, 2 male managers, right? So I'm 50-50. But the 3 out of 4 of them have come through our early career program. And if I look at my early career program, their last cohort, we had, I think it was 5 female came through. We hired them. This cohort is 4 male. There was no female candidates that came forward. Yep. So I think it does go back to what I have said at the start. But we've got now the ability with our program through apprenticeships, through grads. We've got our next set of partner business managers, next set of specialists, and they will go on to either be end user salespeople or somewhere else in the organization, or leaders in our business, like Joe, like Heather, who's here, and my other manager, Heather. They've come through our program. And I think that's what you've got to do. I think it has to start at the beginning, right? Not at the end.
We've run out of time, which has been great, but I'm going to ask the panel one last question. And if you can keep it to sort of 20 seconds, what is the biggest opportunity in the IT channel in 2023? Go.
I think everyone's going to know my answer here. But for me, it's sustainability, the circular economy. There's never been a time more important than now. Everything that's already been said today, for us to pull together, and it's a large challenge to tackle global climate change, but it's becoming more and more relevant, whether it is just a tick box exercise or because a business does really care about it. So for me, it's one thing we're talking about the most, and I think we've really got a big opportunity to pull together with everyone in the room here to collaborate on this topic. So come over to the tent and have a chat with us more on it.
Howard, biggest opportunity 2023?
I think it's the hybrid cloud or multi-cloud opportunity, and going after born in the cloud workloads, because those guys who are typically born in the cloud orgs or businesses have never had a point of view other than a hyperscaler point of view. So I think that's one area of focus. It's not an easy area to go after, but it's a massive opportunity.
Lewis?
I'll go with partnering, as I would, but I see it differently, that instead of us as a vendor talking to partners around why you should partner with us and you using our IP, I think we're flipping it, and we should be partnering, utilizing with our partners their IP, their stickiness with customers, instead of us just forcing the agenda with them to say you need to be certified in this, certified in that. Let's work with our partners with their certifications and their trusted advisorship.
And Julian, closing the show, biggest opportunity.
Unfortunately, Lewis has said what I was going to say, which is maximizing our partners and our partner relationships and our collaboration, as you were saying at the end. The power of the partner network, no matter what we focus on, whether it be sustainability or whatever else, using that knowledge, using the strength of those relationships. That's how we'll make it happen. We won't happen individually. It has to happen through our partner network. So absolutely, our partners are everything to us, and that's how we need to make it work.
Great. Thank you, panelists. That's a wrap.